USS LST 491. I'm still kicking about and liking it okay. Sure was tired of riding trains. The ship was commissioned on Tuesday afternoon. I've gotten another job since I came back. I'm now postmaster of the ship. It means $15 more on the month. That makes me $111 a month now. Someday I'll be rich! We don't have much of any place to spend any money, so it will soon pile up for me. I never knew how important mail was until I got this job. My name is the most popular on the ship now. Every person asks me about 6 times a day if he got any mail. It is Adams this and Adams that from every part of the ship. Mail is the most important thing there is to a man who is away from his family and friends.
I took this prisoner. He was about 6'4", and I think I was one of the smaller fellows in the crew, but handcuffs and all, and he was handcuffed to me, and we was going to go to Great Lakes. And we went, and I dispersed him at the ad building. Sailor that was on duty there said, "Yeah, here's a list of stuff you got to take back for the ship." Well, my train was a little late. It was 8:30 out, and they had, even yet, you couldn't walk on the main deck. They had so much equipment scattered all over the main deck, cords and welding cables and water hoses and Lord knows what all. But the next day we were supposed to get on the ship. And the next morning we went back there, and all that stuff was cleared off that ship. It was clean again. The Evansville never made arrangements. They built the ships, but they never made arrangements for the crews that couldn't get on the ship. Now those fellows that was there had to sleep in that train station on cement for 2 nights.
Was glad to hear Melvin got home. I'll bet it was good seeing someone else's face. That is, other than mine. Does he know anything about radio? I've been studying radar the last couple of days. Nice stuff, I'd say. All those rating badges won't fit on my arm. Radio man, radar man, mail clerk, signalman, gunner's mate, and chaplain. Some list. We keep telling the fellows that having troubles that the chaplain's office is in the radio shack. I made a bet with one of the gunner's mates that I could tear down and put a 20mm together in 30 minutes. Well, I lost. It took me 40 minutes. You'll probably see this ship in pictures since it's the first of its kind.
So they'll catch if I
The time is almost gone for me. Your son, yes, the one that gets all the leaves, Marion.
We was always really anxious to see them when they'd come in the door, and usually they come home on a big surprise. You didn't know they's even coming home. They just show up, and everybody kind of get a shock, here they are home. And, kind of like a big party, for them to get home and knowing that they was all right. Just never talked much, you just never hear much about it. I guess because maybe I wasn't old enough to understand some of it at the time, that was probably part of it. I'm sure they might have talked to some of the older brothers about it, but.
November and December 1943. Roosevelt and Churchill meet with Chiang Kai-shek to discuss the future of the Far East and the new Pacific Charter once the Japanese have been defeated. Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin meet in Tehran, Iran, to discuss the invasion of France. In the Pacific, U.S. troops land on Makin and Tarawa atolls in the Gilbert Islands. Roosevelt and Churchill are back in Cairo, Egypt, for further meetings with Allied leaders. The House Foreign Affairs Committee in Washington announces that 600,000 people fleeing Nazi persecution have been granted admission to the U.S. since 1933.
Berry Field, Nashville, Tennessee. Back in rebel territory. This is quite a lively place around here. There's 3 or 4 tank divisions on maneuvers near here, and the field is alive with planes. mostly B-24 Liberators. We're getting a little oversea training now. It don't amount to much. By the way, before I forget it, some of us were put on the 308th Squadron. Don't get excited over the papers in this letter. They're only routine. It's a protective measure against any arguments of what little I have. No room for arguments the way it's written up. Each one of you are to keep a copy for yourself.
Hey, could you mail this for me?
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Melvin was now assigned to Air Transport Command, known as ATC, whose mission is to meet the urgent demand for speedy reinforcement of military bases worldwide. The ATC consisted of two main divisions, the Ferrying Division and the Air Transport Division. The Air Transport Division transported aircraft and cargo from manufacturing plants in the U.S. to various training bases and to ports of embarkation. The Ferrying Division was responsible for transfer of combat aircraft to overseas bases.
Hi, boys. What's cooking, good lookins? Well, boys, if I don't be careful, this whole year will be gone. Sam, I got that Christmas card you sent. Say, Verlin, if a nickel was a dime and a dime a nickel, would you loan me a quarter? What did you get for Christmas, Max? If anyone sees Bobby in any mischief, just let him alone. Just kidding. Bobby, you're a good boy. Don't forget to get the milking done before it gets dark. And get in plenty of coal, for I think it's going to be cold in the morning. The work's all done now, so go to bed so you can work tomorrow. Bye now. Your whittle brother, Marion.
After traveling down the Mississippi River from Evansville, Indiana, Marion's ship shoved off from New Orleans into the Gulf of Mexico on Christmas Day. The crew had not encountered rough water before, and most became seasick. Marion said he was sicker than a dog and didn't want to be sick on Christmas.
Time, 11:10 p.m. Happy New Year! Dear Dad and Mom, Christmas Day wasn't spent just like I wanted to spend it, and this certainly doesn't seem like New Year's Eve. I've been in the Navy a year now, and it seems like only a few weeks. I guess Dale must be out to sea too. I got a letter from Melvin today saying Dale was on a baby flat top. Wonder if he likes that as well as he did the Wasp. How did Christmas prove to be there at home? Sure was a lot of boys thinking about home this past week. Most fellows were home last Christmas. I've been fine, and things are in very good order. Been keeping the Radio Shack well under control. Right when you can, Marion.
Hiya, everyone. Next week, we are going on extended order operations. We are to sleep in pup tents and sleep on the ground. With 4 or 5 inches of snow on the ground, I don't think I'm going to like it. It will be my last week here, so knowing that will help a little. It isn't too cold outside, but the ground hasn't thought of thawing out either. Well, I've done a little changing around. We're now at an advanced radio unit, picking up some pointers on airways and the different procedures on the routes. As I gather, it's a 6-week course. It has to do with operating on specified lanes across the pond. There's the South Atlantic route, the Middle Atlantic wing, the North Atlantic, the Pacific, the Alaskan wing, and several others. Each one has its own way of operating, and we are supposed to know a little about each. Melvin.
January and February 1944. A helicopter is used on a mercy mission for the first time when blood plasma is flown to New York to treat victims of an accidental explosion on board the USS Turner. Rommel assumes command of the German Army Group B covering the north of France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Hitler orders the mobilization of all children over the age of 10. The U.S. Air Force announces production of its first jet fighter, the Bell P-59. General Eisenhower takes command of the Allied invasion force in London. It is decided that Operation Overlord, the invasion of France originally scheduled for May, will be postponed until June. In the Pacific, U.S. forces begin the invasion of the Marshall Islands.
Dear Mom, Dad, and all, just to let you know I'm still okay and going strong. Your radio probably tells you more than I can anyway. I got your V letter of January 4th, but haven't received your Christmas package yet. The little paper doesn't show up anymore. I guess we're lucky to get the first-class mail. Hoping everything is okay at home and that Melvin and Marion are still doing okay.
But Dale talked a lot about World War II and different things that he'd come into, especially the time aboard the WASP. And I had asked him a couple different times about that same situation the day the WASP was sunk, and the story told was basically the same in each case. Talked a lot about his brothers and what they were doing and the communication that they tried to keep in touch with each other. The thing Dale said about the letters was that he always wanted to know how things were going back home, and it was important for him to know that, and because he knew that the war would be over at some point in time. He would be coming home, and there was a lot to do when the war was over, and things to do on the farm, and a new house to build, things like that really concerned him, and that's one of the reasons why he wanted to stay in touch, wanted to see how everybody was doing.
I haven't left the States as yet, but expect to in the very near future. I told you about all I dare to tell when I was home. I will have to begin by telling you of the good time I had. I don't know as I have spent a better 78 hours. I sure like that home-cooked chicken. I can say that I'm not at the same place I was when I came home. Not by a long ways. I have been as far south as I ever expect to get, and now it is the other way, if you see what I mean. We were held up a few days. It has been bad. As ever, Marion. P.S. Tell Melvin he won't have to worry about this thing scooping up sand. All he has to do is keep those planes of his in the air.
But the time at home was utilized so quickly, and we had so many things to do that we did, but it wasn't at home so much. We always did rib one another that way, but you have to remember I was a third party, and that third party was the one that took the blunt. Dale and Melvin both was more or less making fun of me for being in the Navy, and more so after I got on an LST. But I'm sure neither one of them knew what the LST's duties were.
Things here at Nashville Municipal is beginning to draw to a close. We have 2 more weeks of operations. The navigation courses are entering their reviewing stages. I see Emerson B. graduated as navigator. Sometimes I get the fever to go back, but when I think of how long the course is now, and the time that would just be wasted, I hardly think it'd be worth it. That's one thing about the ferrying division. I may get to see a lot of water under me, but I won't get a lot of flak and slugs thrown at me all the time. Once we hit Prestwick, Scotland, and crawl out and turn the plane over to the guards, that's as far as we go. We have the pleasure of catching a transport plane and flying nonstop back to the States. Most every one of the pilots that have come back from combat say there were more times that they wished they were buck privates back here in the States than majors in the Army. Some of them have lost as many as 5 complete crews. It's rough. As ever, Melvin.
During the 13 months of its existence, Ferrying Command will grow from an original staff of 2 officers and a civilian secretary to a strength of over 11,000 officers and enlisted men. As the name implies, ferrying will be its main job. Pilots ferried 13,595 aircraft to U.S. destinations, while 632 planes were delivered to foreign destinations.
I haven't heard from Thurman in a long time. I've been wondering if he's still on the same ship. It's sure hard to tell just when this war is going to get over. Does anyone seem to know back that way? It seems the Germans had the fellows stopped for a little while there in Italy. I wonder if that was just a power test or what. I hope the next couple of months starts old Tojo to sweat. Everything's been going okay with me. As ever, Dale.
I remember one time we were between Newfoundland and Iceland. We were at the top of a wave and you could look down and see a destroyer.
Yeah. Yeah. Now there was 43 ships in our convoy going to England across the North Atlantic. There was times we couldn't see a ship.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a 60 ship convoy that almost disappeared sometime.
Yeah.
Of course, we had a 33 ship convoy going to Murmansk. There's only 3 of them left.
Water, they got in a storm.
No, they were sunk.
Sunk.
Yeah, they sunk 28 of them.
Oh, yeah, the submarines?
Submarines and
Yeah.
airplanes was flying from Norway to Spitsbergen, back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see at least 6 at a time on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You see, during the war in the North Atlantic, the Germans run what they call wolf packs.
Yeah.
It has 6 or 8 submarines, and you couldn't get away from them.
No.
As for where I am, all I can say is that I had a nice trip over, and that the over is verified as far as to somewhere in England. I haven't seen much of the country as yet, but intend to get around a little before we leave. I haven't heard from anyone back that way since Feb. I miss the letters very much, but I'm getting used to doing without them. Have you heard from Dale or Melvin? Where are they? How are all the kids doing in school? If you know of anyone that is about to write me, tell them to use V-mail. I would be more apt to get that than anything else.
Victory Mail, commonly known as V-mail, was instituted in the summer of 1942 when cargo space was needed for supplies, not mail. About 700 words could be written on a special sheet of paper that folded into its own envelope. It was then microfilmed onto 16mm film, and one roll of film contained about 1,600 letters. The film was transported in small boxes, reducing a ton of mail down to 25 pounds. When the boxes reached their destinations, the film was developed. Each letter was enlarged to a 4x5-inch print and then delivered. V-mail ensured that thousands of tons of shipping space could be reserved for war materials.
Municipal Airport, Memphis, Tennessee. Hello everyone. For once I'm assigned to a regular outfit. The 59th Ferrying Squadron will be giving the orders for a while at least. I'm to go to Birmingham, Alabama on detached service. There we'll do about 3 weeks of domestic flying, such as picking up planes at the different factories over the country and taking them to different modification bases. Birmingham is one of the largest, so I hear. Then we'll start our foreign deliveries. Radio operators are really needed bad down here. Up till now, all our flights have been relatively short ones. Down at Birmingham, we will get the long ones, coast to coast. Stations are tricky to pick up and get bearings on if they are very far away. And I can use a little more practice on them.
Okay.
Speed in picking them up and getting fixes is what counts. It sounds funny to hear the crews talk around here. A fellow who just got back from Karachi, India, will come in the room, throw a few more clothes in his B4 bag, and say, "Gotta make a trip to Casablanca. I'm leaving in about 30 minutes, so do me a favor and call that girl I was with last week and tell her I'll see her on Friday." Something like that is just usual conversation. I'm fine. Like Memphis fine too.
Hello, everyone. Aha! So once again, a big lot of hogs went off the farm. That will take a lot of work away from Dad. Yes, it is coming spring again, and the work comes with spring. Lots of work goes with the farm, but when you get so close as to see the flash of the bombs put me back on the farm, ha! Yes, I'll plow corn again, and yes, I'll enjoy it too. You asked if I got seasick crossing the ocean. I reckon I'm an old salt, as they call them when they no longer get seasick. I wasn't sick one day out of all of it. All I can say is they can talk about them rough-riding battleships and aircraft carriers, but those sort of sailors hasn't seen a thing until they cross the North Atlantic on an LST. That goes for some of the oldest salts in the Navy. You can just tell Dale that, too.
Tell all the little boys I said hello.
I have a little money here that I don't want to carry around, so I'm sending it home. In all, there's 30 pounds, 4 shillings, and 9 pence. We get paid in British money over here. Well, I was out on liberty last night, and what a sight to see. This town that I was in is simply torn to the ground by bombs. In some places, there are block after block leveled to the ground. I never thought it could be so bad as it is, but now that I've seen it for myself, I know just what the real story is. I won't say any more about it, as there are limits to that sort of talk too. Has Nick thought much more of the Navy? I still don't think he will ever have to worry about going. Don't worry about me, as I am going to get along as good as any one of them over here. Tell all the little boys I said hello! Right soon, as it is sure good to hear from you. Marion.
It didn't take me long to know I didn't want to be in the Navy. That as soon as I could get out of the Navy and go home, and I made up my mind when I was in the Navy that I was going to farm when I came home, because there was nobody there to boss me. I'm my own boss, and I don't have to put a price on this or a price on that. I'll take what they pay, and I'll pay what they ask. And that's the way the farmer is even today.
We're on our way west with the B-24 4-engine bomber. It's to go to Hamilton Field, about 30 miles north of San Francisco. Then we fly on south to Long Beach, just outside of Los Angeles, and pick up another plane. I imagine it would be a Fortress. I was in one of those new B-29 super jobs. It has 2 bomb bays that will hold Dad's tractor and separator. In order to get back to the tail compartment, you crawl through a tunnel. They are really some plane. This job is a pretty good deal. California is a pretty state to fly over. It seems that regardless how hilly it is out there, there is grass growing on the hills. Just big old mountains covered with big shade trees and grass. Down at Long Beach they have a lot of palm trees. Most all the buildings on the west coast are camouflaged. They look funny. As ever, Melvin.
March and April 1944. Except for certain select cuts, meat rationing ends in the United States. The Red Army liberates Yalta and Tarnopol of the Ukraine and cuts the Axis front in half. Nearing the North Pacific, U.S. troops land in Hollandia, New Guinea.
Slowly but surely, I'm getting this English money straightened out. This money doesn't even look like money. I'd just as soon throw some of it overboard as look at it. We began to eat K rations this evening. Food is sort of hard to get over here. I'll agree that a K ration won't make me fat, but still, I won't starve to death. Some of the boys were going around barking like a dog, said they had ate too many dog biscuits. What a time they had. We are all getting very anxious to get this thing over with and clear out of this place. Every day gets us closer back to the States.
Well, I did quite all right again in the mail situation. 7 of your V-mail letters. I also got the Christmas candy package today. It's still in good shape, even though it did take so long. The little paper got through finally also. Got about 40 of them this time.
I got back in this afternoon, and within 2 hours was on foreign orders. I'm expecting to leave sometime tomorrow morning. I'm not sure just where, but I imagine to England. We're to take a C-47 transport, and I see there's a bunch on the ramp with the British insignia on them. I won't be gone but about 2 or 3 weeks. You can drop me a line down here, and I can get my mail when I get back. I had 22 letters waiting on me when I got here today. I spotted Vivian's in the bunch right off. That left-handed style caught my eye. It kind of sounds like most everyone is in the Army now, or about to get into it. Emerson Branson is across now. He will probably be on the big invasion. You were asking about staying at the field where we delivered aircraft. No, we don't stay there long. They give us orders on a plane to some field. Upon completing the trip, we proceed to the nearest ferrying base for further orders. These foreign deliveries will be about the same, only outside the states. My job is keeping us in contact with the Army ground stations so they know where we are, and also so we can get weather. There's a lot of details that go with it that I can't get into. I'll send an extra copy of orders we work under. It'll give you an idea. So until later.
From England, best wishes. Happy birthday, Dad! By Marion. Hello, everyone. Yes, you too, Dad. Well, here's that boy again. How are things going back on the farm? Or should I say, down on the farm? When you going to plant the spuds? I never thought I would ever get homesick for the farm, but sure would like to be back there to do a little plowing myself. Things have been going pretty good with me. I guess I would say they are going all right, even if they weren't. I have to do that to keep my morale up. I do get to wondering what is going on back home, though. Dad hasn't been working too hard, has he? Tell him to be careful. This war can't last much longer, and then there will be a couple of us boys there to help him. Keep the dirt flying. You said you still listen to the news, and so do I. There will be big news one of these days. That will be the day. So Melvin likes his work. Good. I like mine pretty well too. He must never get time to write, for I very seldom hear from him anymore. Guess Dale is busy too. They say no news is good news, so I'll keep hoping. I suppose he worries about me just as much as I worry about him. I still think the war will be over before September. Most of all, don't worry about me. I will take good care of myself. Everything will work out perfect. So long, Marion.
Marion's LST was in England preparing for Operation Overlord, the code name for the Battle of Normandy. This operation would launch the invasion of German-occupied Western Europe. In the months leading up to the invasion, Allied troops and equipment were loaded on board, and they rehearsed their roles by making practice beachings on a British beach, since it was a replica of the beach in Normandy.
You were wondering about where we went on our foreign trip. I'll try to give you an idea. We flew up to Miami and loaded up with mail going across. We went from Miami to Puerto Rico, to Trinidad, then down to British Guiana, on down to the mouth of the Amazon, then on to the easternmost point of South America at Natal. We flew the South Atlantic at night, and our gas supply was to carry us to the little Ascension Island. It's only 7 by 4 miles and plenty easy to pass by. We got a good navigator and missed our estimated time of arrival by only 2 minutes. By that I mean, as soon as we got to our cruising level out of Natal, he told the pilot what time he expected to be at Ascension. 12 hours away. Ascension is a rock island. There's only one runway there, cut out of solid rock. There is one tree there. A palm tree that grows in the dirt hauled over from Florida. They call it Coconut Grove. From there, it's up through Africa to Marrakech, just south of Casablanca. That's where the big haul begins, up to England with Heinies out looking for ducks. They have radar in their planes and they can find you, but they don't like you to lead them too far out over the drink. They run out of gas before they can reach the coast. A few nights before we left for England, there were 160 planes went up to England. 100 of them were cargo planes, about 59 B-24 bombers, and 1 lone flying Fortress. As luck would have it, 8 Ju-88s jumped this lone Fortress. They killed the pilot and shot out one of its engines. Anyway, it made it up to the UK, The crews from the cargo planes were still on the field when it came in. They wanted to know where he was to get all shot up that way. "Oh," said the navigator, "we just came up from Marquette." That was nearly too much for the old boys out of the cargo planes who had no guns aboard. Those heinies were out looking for ducks, cargo planes, but they ran into a bee instead. From England, we went up to Scotland to come back to New York. They issue the RAF boys each a bicycle. When 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. comes, they drop their tools, get on their bikes, and go to tea. It seems to take them an hour to go and an hour to get back, and 50 minutes to drink the stuff. I can't for the life of me see what a limey has to stick his nose in the air about. I'm scheduled to go out again in a flight of A-20s. Don't worry none. It's a good business. As always, Melvin.
Only Melvin said that he was flying a lot, and he said when he got over England, he tried to get in touch with me on the radio, but he didn't know what frequency or anything kind. He said it was unsuccessful.
May 15th, 1944. Mrs. Betsy Adams, Covington, Ohio. Thinking of you on Mother's Day. Stop. Am well. Stop. Hope you are the same. Stop. Love. Stop. Marion Adams.
Hello, everyone. It is just me again. No telling when this letter will leave the kingdom. They say the mail is being held over here until after the invasion. Write when you can, and don't worry.
Hilda Jean Adams, Mel and Bessie's middle daughter, graduated from Newton Township Rural High School in May of 1944 in a class of 27 students. Her class was smaller than usual since many of the young men had already enlisted or were drafted before they could graduate.
I had no idea the war was going to drag out so long. According to the news, something is going to pop over in western France. Sure pounding away. The Japs are sure getting weak. My own eyes tell me that. I haven't gotten any mail from the other boys. Guess they're being kept plenty busy. Tell Jean I haven't forgotten her graduation. She'll be getting a package one of these days when I get where things may be gotten.
May and June 1944. The D-Day landings. Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy, France, against fierce opposition, especially at the U.S. targeted Omaha landing area, where 1,000 men die on the beach. Over 600 people are murdered by German troops in a French village, where the men are shot, the women and the children are locked in a church, which was then set on fire. U.S. Marines land on Saipan with severe fighting. The Battle of the Philippine Sea is the largest aircraft carrier battle in history, termed the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, where 250 Japanese aircraft are destroyed. A severe storm in the English Channel damages mulberry harbors at Normandy. The first V-1 flying bombs are launched against England from France. President Roosevelt signs the Servicemen's Readjustment Act, better known as the GI Bill of Rights, which provides funds for post-war housing and education.
A bunch of the fellows are receiving their permanent change of station lately. Most of them are going to England to fly supplies into the continent as soon as the invasion starts. I'm more or less looking for the same deal. It's going to take a lot of supplies at the right time and at the right places to keep things going when it does start. Oh, say, can you tell me what bomb group Emerson Branson is in?
Emerson had been making bombing raids over France, Belgium, and Germany. Towns like Lyon, Zwickau, Kiel, Charmont, Berlin, Brussels, Magdeburg, Leipzig, Karlsruhe. On a mission just before the Normandy invasion, his plane received a direct hit by flak, setting the No. 3 engine on fire. The crew bailed out, and Emerson found himself behind enemy lines. Eventually, he managed to smuggle letters to his mother while being hidden by the French underground.
Dear Mom, I hardly know how to start this letter since there is so very much to tell. Friday morning, June 3rd, we got up and went through the usual briefing and preparations for a raid. That morning's raid was a short one, just over the coast around Dunkirk. We got back around noon to find we had to go on another raid that afternoon. This raid was to be on the railroad yards at Versailles, France, just outside of Paris. We could not see our target, so we started for the Concho airfield northwest of Paris when we were hit by flak. The pilot said for us to bail out because he feared the plane would explode. Boy, I wasted no time in getting out, for I had seen a couple explode, and it's not a pleasant sight or thought. I waited a while, then pulled the chute and started a lazy descent to France. Below me, not far away, was the Seine River. I thought I might receive an unwanted bath in it. About this time I heard rifle shots from a couple Germans taking pot shots at me, but they were neither determined nor accurate. There were 7 other chutes visible in the distance, and I noticed Germans on motorcycles on the roads below me. I was very fortunate to land in an orchard between trees. Almost immediately there was a Frenchman who took my parachute and hid it. I ran into a woods and hid there in a ravine under some leaves and brush. The next morning I saw 2 Frenchmen who acted as if they were looking for someone. I took a chance and showed myself, and indeed that was most fortunate. They were looking for me and offered to hide me for a couple days and start me on my way through the underground to Spain or Switzerland. Later in the afternoon, I got some clothes put over my uniform. Well, I will close now and write some more later. Lots of love, Emerson.
Marion's ship was also involved with the Normandy invasion, reaching Omaha Beach on D-Day, June 6th. This amphibious assault, involving almost 7,000 vessels, was preceded by a 12,000 plane airborne assault. With the heavy fighting and delay in establishing a beachhead, LST-491 was ordered to Utah Beach to unload on June 8th. While headed for yet another beach on June 11th, they came under a major air raid by the Germans. This was the time in his life that Marion said he began getting gray hair, and this was also Marion's 21st birthday. His ship had landed on a different beach every time it crossed the channel with troops and supplies.
Or listen to the news. That was one thing we always did. We always listened to the news to see on the radio, see what was going on each front. And of course, when the invasion, that was kind of kept quiet until the invasion days happened. But
when I got out of high school and the war was going to come on, or was coming on, I never thought I'd ever get through it. You know, I sat on that ship going across the English Channel the night we was going to invade Europe. And the thing went through my mind that night, I can remember it's the same as yesterday. What'll I be doing tomorrow night at this time? And how was I going to answer that question? When we beached, these practice beaches, every soldier that went to England had to go on an LSD for a practice landing. He had to know how to get his equipment backed up on that LSD and what he had to do to run it off. And after that, when we took them to the beach on a practice landing, we went there and we turned and went right to the beach. They would sound George on the PA system that we were beaching. We'd hit it at flank speed. The thing would stop, bow doors would open. They'd get everything offloaded. We would retract and go back to where we were. And I thought, after maybe 50 beachings of practice that way, that anytime we hit a beach, that's the way we were going to do it. So we left England for across the channel, and I knew when we got over there, we were going to head for the beach and hit the beach. Only they were going to be shooting at us. So you can see what was going through my mind. There was no way out of this. And I went because he went, or he went, and he was gone, and I wasn't scared of it. Too young to be scared. If he's willing to go, I'll go. Now I understand, and I do know, that a lot of people didn't understand about the beaches in Normandy. Most of them thought Omaha Beach was the only beach in Normandy, but there was 5 beaches, and they started out with Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword Beach. The Sword Beach was English, and Juneau was Canadian and French, and the Gold Beach was a combination of all of them. Omaha Beach was an American beach, and Utah was an American beach. So I didn't know what beach was, as far as I was concerned, one beach was the same as another, but it wasn't true. There was probably 10 miles between the beach. The beach was anywhere from a quarter-mile to a mile long, and that figures out to about 60 miles on the Normandy beaches. But we never knew when we left England, anytime, 4 different times, we never knew what beach we were going to. I didn't. The skipper had, the chart room was right next to us. The quartermaster probably knew, but he only knew where we were supposed to be according to the chart room, or chart. Frogmen come in and they cleared the beach mines and underwater demolitions. And they got an area there wide enough for the small boats to get in. And then they kept widening that until they had a wide enough beach that an LST could get in, or 2 or 3 of them. The LST 133 was going to the beach. I could see her from where we were behind the Texas. She was headed straight for the beach on D-Day at Omaha Beach. And the beachmaster called her and told her to back out. She was in the middle of a mine area. And so she stopped and she did back out and went on down the beach. Where she was getting all her orders, I don't know. But she hit a mine and on down a little bit. But they brought that ship back to the States after it hit this mine and redid it, fixed it up. They brought it back with a tug, and it was, I saw it in the Pacific. And I thought sure it would have been totaled. The 289 was in Slapton Sands. It was hit by a torpedo, and they brought it back to the States. And I seen that out in the Pacific too, the 289. And I couldn't really believe that. When the battleship was sending a barrage and salvos into the beach, being that close, we would see the flash of the guns, and at the instant of the flash, our pant legs would reflect to the concussion. The canvas on top of the main deck air tubes would flip up from that concussion right the instant of the firing of the salvo. And then we'd hear the boom, but you could actually see the projectile go. They were large enough that they was fast, but they would go. You could see them. These books that Ann brought, it told where the Texas was sitting and how she cleared the beach overhead where there was a 88 coming out and shooting right down on the beach. And I saw that Texas roll her guns around, and she fired, and boy, it just parted the whole top of that beach. I'll bet you we could find that spot yet today where that land was changed, contour. And then that was told about the Texas doing this. And I didn't know that we were on Omaha until several years later. I saw a news flash that they put on television or radio shows. And the USS Texas, the battleship, was off of Omaha shooting support to the beach. And we were sitting within 400 feet of the Texas on the day that we went in and dropped anchor. So that's when I found out that we were on Omaha Beach. Our ship dropped our small boats, which was LCVPs, at about 8 o'clock in the morning, 0800, and we loaded 101st Airborne that we had on that requested they go to the beach on the first wave because the 101st had dropped behind the lines on the morning of D-Day about from 400 to or 4 o'clock in the morning until about 6. And these fellas wanted to get with their buddies they was going to meet up. Those that dropped in was going to come toward the beach, and those that we took in on LCVPs was going to go toward them. We loaded all 6 LCVPs that we had, and they took off about a little after 8 in the morning for the beach. And I've never seen any of those people that coxswained the LCVPs, nor none of the LCVPs from that day on. We were assigned new crews and new boats. Whatever happened to those fellows, I have no idea. But they're the people that were on the first wave from our ship on Omaha Beach. We sat off the beach till 3 o'clock in the afternoon on D-Day, and then the beachmaster called and ordered us to go to Utah Beach because the beach had been established there. So we pulled anchor and went up to Utah Beach and offloaded. But we'd wait, every 6 hours the tide would change. We had to offload in 6 hours and get the heck off the beach. Mm-hmm. And we would have made 4 trips in 12 days on each one was a different beach. And we never knew but what the next beach, not knowing which one we were going to hit till we got there, other than the fact that we had on British, we knew we was going to the British beach. Mm-hmm. That beach was Sword Beach. But we thought it would be like Omaha or Utah. We didn't know. I've talked to lots of different fellows, or read about it in the paper, where they claimed they landed on Omaha Beach on D-Day, June 6, 1944. But I know for a fact there was no LSTs landed on Omaha Beach on D-Day. There was no beachhead established. Matter of fact, at that time, the High Command had decided to give in on Omaha Beach and say it was a loss, that we got beat there, but they didn't give up. They held on to the last time. And I believe the thing that helped them more than anything else was 2 destroyers went parallel to the beach, one little bit behind the other, and the lookouts would watch on the beach and see gun flashes. They would train their 5-inch guns on that spot in Kablooey. And they did that. They took a lot of guts for that captain to order his ships to do that. All they had to do was run aground, and they had been setting targets. But they knocked out a lot of the fire that was shooting down on the beach at these soldiers that was trying to get on the beach. And I think that's one thing that saved them on the beach.
Dear Mom, I will continue with my letter now. On this bright, sunshiny afternoon, I am in a small French village in the loft of a barn. I have not been here long. I am moved about occasionally for safety's sake. However, the Germans are not suspicious of my existence here. I have not been injured in any way and have never felt better in my life. The very night I was to start working my way out of France, the invasion took place. Due to increased restrictions, it was decided best to keep me hid until the Allies reach this area. I was kept in a building with numerous knotholes to look out of, and I had some hay to sleep on. I was quite comfortable and would often watch the French people along a road nearby. I was in a small rural village with no Germans around. Every other night, the people would bring me food, milk, bread, cherries, and meat. I heard that 7 of the 10 crew were captured immediately.
The Germans, they captured 7 of your crew right away?
Often, I would listen to the roar of the American bombers and fighters overhead. One day, a plane saw a couple French carriages and mistook them for German. He dropped 2 bombs that was so close, the side of the building I was in was shaken loose from its foundation. It was decided that I should be taken to another village at my present location. I live like a king here. I'm eating a steak, have a small radio with earphones, and I'm enjoying some music from German station. Of course, their views on the news are rather one-sided. Lots of love, Emerson.
Now that I've checked back into the field, I'd better get down to answering some of my mail.
Who are you? Melvin Adams.
I had quite a stack of it waiting on me here in Memphis. Had one from Marion, 26th of May it was dated. He was at Plymouth, England when he wrote it. He didn't come right out and say it, but he might as well have. It got by the censor, and that's what counts. I had one letter from Jeanette, too. I can't say I saw much new territory the past few weeks. Water was plentiful. We were in the air 138 hours the past 4 weeks. Flew the Atlantic 4 times. Our first trip was to bring back a load of wounded officers from Algiers. When we came back to the States on that trip, we were given a B-25 to take over, and then crew another C-87 and bring back our second load. As it turned out, the 87s were all in use, and they gave us a beat-up B-25 to bring back to San Antonio, Texas. That was a messed-up trip. The radio equipment was all out of order. The engines threw oil out at the rate of 12 gallons a hop, 8 hours. And we ended up at San Antonio, wiggling our wings to let the tower know we intended to land. I'm on a 5-day rest leave, but don't dare leave the city limits in case if something should come up. I was in town at Tunis. It's pretty well shot up. In fact, most every place up that way seems to be that way too. It was good to hear that Nick got another deferment.
Dear Mom, time is passing quite fast and the news is favorable. The Germans sure are taking a beating in Russia and in Italy also. It's still quite a way to Berlin, but look how far we have come. Before Christmas, I bet great things will happen. There is one person who I am indeed grateful. She lives close by and is able to speak English. She gave me a dictionary so I can express my thoughts in French. Her husband is a French army officer who is in hiding at the present. She will mail these letters to you when the war is over, because they would not go through the censorship as is. It might be interesting for you to know about my raids. The destruction wrought by our bombers has undoubtedly been great. The only raid that we were determinedly attacked by German fighters was Zwickau, which is about 100 miles south of Berlin. As to flak, it is certainly not to be laughed at. Over Berlin, they have around 1,000 guns, and most of the places we attacked are around 50 to 75. On half our raids, we got little holes here and there from flak. I have just now heard a couple German planes fly overhead. They seldom are out here in the daytime due to the danger from Allied fighters. I can think of little else to write. Emerson.
July 16th, 1944. Mel Adams. Coming home 15 days. Stop. Arrive about August 5 or 6. Stop. Do not try to meet me. Stop. Best regards. Stop. Dale.
Montello, Wisconsin. Dear Dale, first of all, I suppose you're wondering what I'm doing up here in Wisconsin. I'm vacationing on a farm, believe it or not. One of my girlfriends lives here, so here I am. I'll be home August 6th, and I think you said you'd be home either the 5th or 6th. I'm wondering what train you'll be on. I'll see you soon then. Your friend, Betty Jane.
Betty Jane says that when she was at the Chicago train station coming home from Wisconsin, she had an overpowering feeling that Dale was at that very train station. She searched the station until it was time for her departure, never finding him. When Dale came for a visit, he verified that he had in fact been there at the same time, changing trains from the West Coast. They had just missed each other.
July and August 1944. Americans launch an offensive in Cherbourg, France. Hitler is wounded in an assassination attempt where a briefcase bomb explodes at his Rostenburg headquarters. After 2 weeks' continuous bombardment, U.S. Marines land on Guam. Paris is liberated by the Allied troops. More than 3 million troops are landed in France by the end of August. The Japanese garrison on Guam is annihilated, although the last Japanese soldier does not surrender until 1972.
I'm on orders for another trip. This time we are taking a C-87 to Chibua, India. We'll go to South America, to Africa, and on across the South Asia coast to India. As I get it, Chibua is at the base of the hump in India. It should be a good trip. I have an assistant radio operator to go along. He's a fellow who hasn't made any foreign trips yet, and he's going along for experience more or less. I hate it that I won't have a chance to see Dale. Moons will have to write and tell me what he had to say.
Dearest Mom, I moved to Paris quite unexpectedly. Now it is difficult to return to England. I am with an Englishman who was also shot down. We cook our own meals, but food is very expensive here in Paris. There is no food except the black market. The French couple we are staying with have a pile of wood that I saw which they use to burn. I also play chess and cards with Harold, the Englishman, and read some books they have. From the house here, we have quite a good view of a main road, and German troops pass by each day within 10 feet of where I sit. It is interesting to watch them. Also, I have had an ample opportunity to see some of the damage done by our bombers. The French have suffered tremendously. Around 1,200 French were killed in this area by a raid. After the English went over and dropped bombs on their railroad station, the German planes bombed the French civilians to turn them against the English. It was made to appear that the English had killed them. I am told that you have been informed that I am alive. Did you know that the Army pays those who are in France about $10 per day? I really wonder how things are at home. One does not realize how fortunate the American people are until they see what the French here have had to endure. Germany certainly must be definitely and thoroughly beaten. I think after this little adventure, I will be more content to settle down. Emerson.
Say, I'm in a bit of a spot at the moment. One of the fellows I went to school with at Nashville stopped me this morning. He's on his way overseas and asked me to do him a favor. Before I knew the score, I'd accepted a pet. It's this way. One of the fellows we both ran around with was killed in a B-25 crack-up in India. When the smoke died down from the mess, all that was left was Carbine. She sat off about 150 yards, watching the plane burn. How she got out, no one knows. This crew was from Delaware, so someone in Karachi put the dog on a plane and sent it back to the States. This fellow that I talked to had her and didn't know what to do with her. He asked me if I'd be around long enough to ship her somewhere. I told him that I would, and about 10 minutes after he took off, I found out that I'm to be underway too. I ran over to the express agency, filled out a couple of tags, and the fellow out in Sub Depot said he'd make a crate to ship her. She's a good little dog. I have a picture of her taken at Nashville. Give her to someone to keep until I get a chance to get back from this trip. She's housebroke and won't get much bigger. Call her Carbine and she's there. Let me know what the express charge is and I'll be happy to pay. Thanks a million. As ever, Melvin.
Yeah.
I was on the beach.
Yeah, well, that's different, sure.
Yeah.
I had a friend, a radioman, that used to sit right side of me. He was on one circuit and I was on another. He was on the Atlanta a year later and he got killed. Well, I felt bad, but then not the same as if it was on the...
When we hit the beach, the tide was high.
Yeah.
And when the tide would go out, I could walk all the way around the ship. The ship is 328 feet long.
Yeah.
And it didn't draw only made 12 feet of water aft. But one day, we was on one beach or another, I don't know which one it was, I got off the bow. And of course, it was sitting on the sand. And I walked around and there was a shoe laying out. And I didn't think anything about it. I walked over and kicked it. There was a leg in it.
Yeah.
And that's a feeling that you don't...
Oh, sure,
you
that's
can't
different.
explain that. And I walked on up the beach and there was a LCI that had tried the beach. And they got ramps on each side for the soldiers to get off. And that LCI had a 88 had caught it about 15 feet behind the point. And those ramps were down and they were still loaded with corpses, burnt. That 88 was hot. When I was in England, I got a letter from Jack Ross. He was in France at St. Lo, and this letter was one notebook page. There's only about 3 lines on it. He said, Marion, I'm not going to make it. Had been wet and there was mud on it, so what I don't know is whether he was in a foxhole when he said he wasn't going to make it or injured laying someplace.
1, 2, 3.
I sat down and wrote him a letter right back to pacify him. But before I got that letter in the mail, I had it in the sentence box. Well, I got a letter from my folks, and my mother, and she said that Jack was killed.
I haven't heard from you for a long time. I did get a letter from Melvin yesterday. Was glad to hear that he got a leave. Did Dale get home? Sure hope he did. For a leave would do him good. It has been so long since he has been home. How is all the work coming at home? Bet you have been having watermelon as well as muskmelons. What has all the boys been doing? Tell them they will have to sit down one of these evenings and write me a letter.
This part of wanting to know about the farm was that was the only way we could get our minds off of what was going on right at the time. And I know, as sure as I'm sitting here, when I was going across the channel, my folks had no idea where I was or what was going to go on. And I was only 19, 20. And they were just as scary. I never thought I'd come back from Europe. I see myself going over, but I never could see myself coming back. I wasn't sure that we had 101st Airborne on, but we had the 101st was the leftover of the 101st that couldn't get on gliders and C-47s to go behind the lines and drop off middle of the night. And these 101st that we took on wanted to be with their rest of their crew. So they asked if they could be on the first wave that went into Omaha Beach. And the other ship was a 284. I run into a fellow that was on the 284, and I was telling him where we were over there on the beach, and yeah, he said, we had on a 101st Airborne too. And he said they wanted to go in, and he said we took them. But we put them in ourselves. His LST 284 had 6 LCVPs. We had 6 LCVPs. And we had to have that many LCVPs to get all these 101st in. And they went. And one of these books that Ann brought, I was going through it, and I found a medic attending a 101st Airborne individual. He had a foot wound on Omaha Beach on D-Day. So that's the reason I knew that the 101st did go in with us right there. We were in England after Normandy. We had ruined the bottom of our ship on an anchor when we beached at Sword Beach at 0400 in the morning. There's a air raid. We were making smoke, and the captain of the ship couldn't see what direction he was headed, but the ship to our starboard side had already beached, and they had let their anchor out. And we ran over that anchor, and it balled underneath the ship and tore our bottom out, 4 or 5 different spots. So while we were on the beach, the ship fitters welded plates in on that, and the anchor, they welded it in. And when we'd retracted from the beach, we went to Plymouth, England, and they sent us to Penarth, Wales, to have the bottom repaired. And it took a little better than 30 days. We had a fellow that was a motor machinist. He wanted to get married with his girlfriend that lived in Mississippi. And he was unhappy with the ship because we weren't going back to the States. He went out on liberty and never came back. Well, if they're AWL for 31 days, that makes them a deserter. And they are eligible to be shot on sight. And my communications officer, Jim Knox, asked Paul Hadley and myself to go find him. And there was only 1 or 2 pubs in the town. So the first one we went to, he was there, sitting on a stool at the bar. And we told him that the ship was going back to the States, and that he was all for. So he off the bar stool and followed us back to the ship. We had our ramp down, and he said, this ship isn't going back to the States, and he turned to give AWL some more. But Hadley and I grabbed him and took him back on the ship, and that left him only 30 days AWL. and saved his tail. But the ship did come back to the States after southern France invasion. That was in December, and he got married.
Stillwater Valley Daily News. News of those who serve. Dale R. Adams, son of Mr. and Mrs. Mel Adams, arrived home August 5th for a 15-day leave. This is the first time he has been home in 2 years. Dale is now classified as a Chief Petty Officer and is based on an aircraft carrier. He has been in action in the Saipan and Guam territory. He has seen many exciting events, both in the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. Dale's brother, Sergeant Melvin L. Adams, reported back to his operating base at Memphis, Tennessee, after he had a 6-day leave at home. The other brother, Marion R. Adams, radio man, 2nd class, was still stationed in England at last report.
Page 3.
USS Natoma Bay. Dear Mom, Dad, and all. I had some back mail waiting when I reported aboard, so we'll try to get caught up on some of it tonight. Not so glad to get back, though, but I don't think it will be for so long anymore. It was really a good vacation while it lasted. It was so short. I've been working on some plans for that new house in my spare time. Whatever you do, don't let anything worry you, and don't work too hard trying to get things done. As ever, Dale.
Monsieur. Documents.
Oh, merci. Well, here comes another addition to the letter. I am still in Paris and have not moved for some time. I am quite happy here, but am getting a little restless. Travel is not difficult for a couple of fellows dressed as Frenchmen, as quite a lot of confusion reigns due to bombing, and I believe we could have been in Reims, which is now in Allied hands. The last few days I have seen formations of B-17s fly over here. There have been no night raids on Paris lately. They are much more exciting than day raids. I don't care much for either kind, to tell the truth. The rations of bread are quite insufficient. However, the baker knows we are here and puts in an extra loaf sometimes. Potatoes are very scarce. No candy, nor cake. And milk is impossible to obtain. Meat is expensive. 40 francs equals about $1, and a pound of meat costs about 100 francs. Also, butter is about 250 to 300 francs per pound. The black market surely does flourish here in France. Of course, it is unfortunate to have to remain hidden so long. Will continue later. Must take a bath now. Much love, Emerson.
U.S. Naval Hospital, San Diego, California. Just a note this morning to let you know I have a changed address. No, I'm not here because there's something wrong with me.
Sir, I come here to ask for a transfer. The paint shop's been moved down to the bilge of the ship, and for this.
Although they try to tell me I have combat fatigue or war nerves, but who hasn't got that nowadays?
I understand where you're coming from.
I put in for a transfer when I came back off leave because they had moved my paint shop to the bilge while I was home.
Thank you, sir.
I told them if they had moved the mess hall down there, I'd probably starve, much less having a paint shop that low. So before giving me the duty I asked for, they sent me here for a checkup. I'll be here for 6 to 8 weeks. The papers on me are on their way to Washington now. I've been here since August 23rd. The doctor said I'll either get limited shore duty or medical discharge with pension, 50-50 chance one way or the other. He said most of the shore stations are overfilled with people like me.
The senior medical officer aboard the Natoma Bay reports that Dale was attached to the Wasp at the time she was torpedoed. Dale barely missed being killed, while 5 of his buddies were lost. For about 2 months thereafter, he had patterned dreams during which he relived the experience. Gradually, he developed a phobia for spaces below decks, which has increased during duty in the combat zone aboard the Natoma Bay. He has slept on the flight deck in order to obtain rest. He is earnest in his desire to be of help, and it is felt that this man should not be sent back into active combat for at least a reasonable period of time. It is recommended that Dale be transferred to the San Diego Naval Hospital.
I was mail orderly on our ship, and I went to the post offices in all those places in Europe and all of them in the Pacific, and I never once felt unsafe. The only time I had an incident was in Marseille, France. Marseille had been liberated about 9 days, and I was with an officer, and the town seemed peaceful, Marseille, France. And he said, well, let's go out on the town tonight. We're going to go out and get something to eat. And was up on the 2nd floor. We went down the stairway, and it emptied out right on the wall. And we just got down to the bottom end, and across the street over there is a machine gun shooting at us. I tell you, you've seen 2 fellas get back up them stairs in a hurry. And he stayed there all night that night, but he wouldn't go home. Now, what those Germans would do was put on French clothing and walk the streets. And you don't know whether they had Luger or what, see?
South France. Hello, everyone. Time seems to get by faster than I know about. It has been a long time since I heard from any of you. Not a fault of yours. It is just that we haven't been getting any mail. They don't bring it to us. We have to go for it. I might say we have been on the go ever since the last invasion, with no time to get mail. I'm thinking our job will be finished one of these days. This was a big day for us here on the 491. It was 1 year ago today that the crew was picked for this ship. Riviera is the name of the area which this ship hit the beach in southern France. How are the melons? Doesn't look like I'll get any of them this year.
Hey, honey.
Maybe next year
Honey.
I'll get to help plant them. I haven't heard from Nick and Jeanette since before the Normandy invasion.
See that manila envelope Marion's carrying? It contains a daily log report kept by the quartermasters of a ship. Every time the ship stops at a port, either he or the communications officer delivers this information to the post office, sending it to the archives in Washington, D.C. At Calgary, Sardinia, Marion was called on the loudspeaker to report to top deck. He was to accompany Ensign Butterbaugh on a mail run to Naples, Italy. By chance, he happened to be helping a shipmate in the movie projector room. The projector was either too noisy or the room was closed up and isolated from the loudspeaker. Needless to say, Marion did not hear the call, so Butterbaugh left without him. En route, Butterbaugh's plane crashed and he was killed. Had Marion been in his usual quarters, he would have heard the call, left with Butterbaugh, and could have also been killed in the crash.
We were shelling between Sardinia and Corsica. There was a B-25 base down there that did bombing runs, and they were wanting to go up to Corsica, so they was closer to Italy. And there was one of the officers on there that was going to go to Naples to pick up some paint, he said, and he wanted me to go with him to get the mail. We was cleaning a movie or taping a movie together for that evening. I was down in the electrician's shop, and there was no PA system down there, and they was paging me on the PA system, so I didn't hear them paging me.
Had I remained where I was, I would have been freed. But since I came to Paris, I am not. The French say it's possible to get through the lines, yet advise us to stay here.
So it is best to keep you here and keep you hidden for the time being.
It is surely a problem to know what to do. The Allies did not bomb the railroad yards, and now the Germans have set fire to the supplies and ammunition there. There were big explosions. Some at night made quite a beautiful sight. The retreating Germans passing by have mostly horses and carts with a few trucks. The French resistance is quite active, and occasionally we hear a battle with rifles and machine guns. It certainly is trying to wait and wait. When we feel these people could have gotten us through the lines, we certainly are treated unusually nice here. The American and French flags now flies from the town hall, and the Germans merely pass by and look at them. I just heard some very good news. Paris and a region around here has been declared an open city. So this afternoon I am going to see some German prisoners that the resistance had taken. I think our troubles are over now, so I am quite happy. I trust this will be the last letter before liberation for me. All my love and best wishes, Emerson.
Emerson Branson rejoined his unit after Paris had been liberated. Downed airmen who escaped capture did not return to the front for the safety of those who helped them. Having completed 11 combat flight missions, Emerson was awarded the Air Medal. After the war, he enjoyed life as a farmer and seed salesman near Bradford. Bob Hart became an engineer and settled in Troy, Ohio, both men living long lives in Miami County, the same county from which they had graduated.
I can't even go to a hospital, but I'm in pain. I have a paint shop set up here already and have 2 patients working for me. I work for a lieutenant commander who has the maintenance of the hospital. He told me I could stay right here as long as I wish if he has anything to do with it. I'm off every night from 4 p.m. until 8 a.m. Easy life. Everything is going fine here, but don't know yet where I'll go or what I'll be doing when I leave from here. We have a radio in the paint shop so we can keep up with the war news. Can't think of much more for now, so until next time.
The attending physician reports that Dale has seen quite a bit of combat after surviving the WASP. He has a marked feeling of guilt since leaving the WASP and feels that he is living on borrowed time. He had just left the compartment that the torpedo went through and was the last one to see the men who were working there. Also, he has been unable to work or stay below deck while aboard the Natoma Bay. When the paint locker aboard this last ship was moved below deck, he asked for a transfer and was sent into the hospital. He had been sleeping on the deck and eating on the run so that he wouldn't have to stay below deck. He had always been able to carry out his duties in the heat of the battles. He states that he either wants to be out there fighting or at home helping with the war effort. He does not want any shore duty. Dale's medical report reads, "Patient is a very polite and cooperative young male. It is felt that this man has taken as much sea duty and combat as is safe for him to take. Final disposition will be decided after a period of observation."
Well, I'm back once again. I kind of say that with a sigh too, but it was a good trip. I'm only hoping they let us alone for at least 2 or 3 days. Now to give you an idea of where I've been the past couple months. As usual, we went the South Atlantic route to Africa, then across the central part of Africa to Persia, and on to India. We flew across India and about 3 hours into Burma. That adds up to a little more than halfway around the world. Down in Brazil, we dug up a half acre of the field. We had runaway props on takeoff. We got the plane fixed up in about a week. Then after delivering the plane in Burma, We flew back to Cairo and Casablanca in North Africa and picked up an old B-25. The engines on that went out on us, and we had to have 2 engine changes. We flew 5 hours and 50 minutes the first day and burnt 37.5 gallons of oil out of the crankcase. We burned up the other engine trying to get into the base at Dakar. While we were in Cairo, Egypt, we went out and saw the pyramids and the Sphinx. Quite a sight. Also saw the Taj Mahal in India. They won't allow us to go into some of the towns over there because the kids were picking a few soldiers off, stealing everything they had, and then trying to sell it back to some other soldier. In Karachi, India, I had a little kid about 10 years old wanting to shine my shoes. They had been hounding me for an hour and a half. When I asked him how much I owed him, he had the guts to ask me for $1.50. I gave him 25 cents and told him to beat it. He threw the quarter in the gutter. He and about 24 others started to jump me and the engineer. We each grabbed a kid and threw him into the lamppost, and we took off. We ran about 4 blocks before they stopped chasing us. That was the first time I was afraid of 10-year-old kids. They were pulling knives from under every little stitch of clothes they had on. They hate white people something awful. The British, I think, make them feel that way. We have 89 airplanes here in Memphis to go to China, and only 40 crews to fly them. I'm in the 26th Squadron now. All the old 59th I was in went overseas that weren't on trips. I happened to be out when it moved. Right. As always, Melvin. You can see now why I had so much trouble shooting those Texas jackrabbits with a 12 gauge.
Well, down in Texas, they use jackrabbits to round up their cattle. See?
Wow, that's a big rabbit.
September and October 1944. The first V-2 rocket lands in London, killing 3 and injuring 10. Fired from a mobile launcher in German-occupied Hague, the rocket's 192-mile journey takes only 5 minutes. The Nazis announced that Field Marshal Erwin Rommel has died of his wounds, when in fact he was forced to commit suicide after having been implicated in the attempt to kill Hitler. 130,000 U.S. troops land at Leyte in the Philippines, including General MacArthur, who announces to the people of the Philippines that he has returned.
My shore duty was in the Philippines, and it hadn't been liberated yet. That's one thing I didn't say. You see pictures of MacArthur walking out of a landing boat in the water. He went out to that boat and then walked back.
Yeah.
And his headquarters in Manila never had a shell hit it. And the rest of the town was all blown up.
Yeah.
And I hated MacArthur.
So did Truman.
Hmm?
So did Truman.
I know he did. And Truman was one of our best presidents.
Yeah, very best. Most honest.
Huh?
Most honest.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He and Best were 2 nice people.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he really was a good president or not. He wasn't bad anyhow.
He was good. He said something and he stuck to it.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He was a good hat salesman too, I guess.
Yeah.
Here's that next letter I said I'd try to send off before leaving the States. I won't get to mail it until we get down to Miami. Mail is censored here because of this being a port of embarkation. We are held up here because of hydraulic trouble in our right landing gear. I think I told you I was on a C-46 this time, Mountain Buster. Was out on the skeet range yesterday. Managed to knock down 17 birds out of 25 shots. I still have a box of shells, but don't know if I'll have time to send them home. Do you think you'll be able to get any for this fall's hunting? What did Bobby think of those big jackrabbits down in Texas? He didn't think I was telling him a big rabbit story. You know, pictures don't lie. I was glad to see the clipping of Emerson getting home and being okay. I expect his mother was too. Well, here's hoping everything's fine back that way. It is with me. Bye now, Melvin.
I'll bet you're busy with the tater digging just now, because I heard you had a big killing frost the other night. I'm still at the hospital, but expect to leave tomorrow to go to Camp Elliott. It's a replacement center. When I get there, I'll try to pull some strings for what I want. Don't write till you hear from me again. I may be there a day or maybe for quite a while. I'll let you know when I find out what my address will be. It seems the war is sure going well on all sides again. Hope there's no let-up. Well, I'm going to bring this to a close, for I have some clothes to wash and other things to get ready for the transfer. Bye and good luck. As ever, Dale.
Final report from the attending physician at the U.S. Naval Hospital states that the patient feels that he has improved a great deal. He feels lost here at the hospital like a fish out of water, and he doesn't particularly like it. The doctor feels that Dale is ready to return to duty and recommends he should have a period of stateside duty prior to return to the combat areas. Diagnosis: combat fatigue, not resulting of his own misconduct.
See, with him going in 39, he was way ahead of a lot of them because they got drafted or joined just as the war was coming on. He had some seniority built up, so he was always in charge of something, you know. The one thing that bothered him more than anything was to be in charge of 150 some people. And when you looked him in the eye to tell them that you have to go do this, he said, I didn't see their eyes. He said, I saw Mom and Dad back home putting their faith in me to keep them alive. He said, that bothered me worse than anything.
November and December 1944. Roosevelt is elected president for his 4th term. In the Ardennes, the Battle of the Bulge begins, a last-ditch effort by the Germans to divide the Allied thrust toward Germany. Kamikaze attacks increase in the Leyte Gulf and Luzon of the Philippines. Heavy fighting at Leyte inflicts huge losses on both sides. The campaign will ultimately claim 60,000 Japanese lives and leave 15,000 Americans dead or wounded.
North Africa. Things are still very lively here. Lots to be done and no time to do it. Guess that is the way it is all over the world now. Well, were you pleased with the election this year? As for me, yes. I still say FDR is the man. Most of the men here on the ship were well satisfied. We had a big mail call yesterday. It consisted of mail from August to October. We hadn't gotten much mail in that time. We were on the move too much. When Melvin was in North Africa, I was about 900 miles from him. I was in South France. Sure would be good to run into him somewhere. Always, Marion.
In the Leyte Gulf, and what had happened is there were 2 columns of ships, and the planes would come down at 200 feet off the water between the 2 columns, and they would bank and turn towards the other column and drop torpedoes, and then they would go between the 2 ships and fly away. And they come down and they hit the Chicago with torpedoes, and the Chicago was sinking, and they tied it to another ship and tried to pull it away, and they finally had to turn it loose, and it sank. Captain Stonebanks in the Marines was on our admiral's staff, and he called on the radio to all of the ships, and he told them to get their 50 caliber machine guns out and aim at the fantail or the back stern of the ship in the next column, and when the planes came out, open fire, and the planes would have to fly through the machine gun fire, and they knocked down 9 airplanes.
And now this gentleman that shot at that airplane on the off end of that destroyer that would strafe, he would fly between the 2 convoys.
Yeah.
And they set up their weapons back there. They couldn't shoot at him when he was going through the convoy. They're shooting at one another. And that wasn't the thing to do.
I had a secondary battle station, which was the back of the ship. And when general quarters was called, that means everybody to their battle stations. My battle station was secondary control. And just as I was running from the radio room to the back of the ship, a 5-inch gun went off, and it was fire up, and it knocked me down to the deck. And I think my hearing was ruined at that time. That's why I wear hearing aids. And I got up and I got in the secondary control tower. Secondary command officer was on the radio, and he was in Japan for 4 years, and he spoke Japanese. And he changed the frequency of the radio to the Japanese frequency, and he was talking Japanese. And the Japanese would quit talking for a while. They didn't know who was running what. And at that time, a Japanese plane was hit, and you could see the pilot standing up in the airplane, and he was pulling over trying to fly into our plane. It was a kamikaze, and it hit the water just 50 yards from our plane. And then it hit the water and exploded, but we weren't hit. Well, of course, I wasn't so directly involved with the actual fighting. And to me, it was just a sightseeing trip. And I don't think there was anything happened that, I was an observer, not a participant. I think that's the way I felt about it.
Dale Adams reporting for duty.
Natoma Bay has a call out for you.
Camp Elliott, San Diego, California. Well, I'm back. Had a good time on leave, saw lots of snow in Wyoming. I figure some of that snow is working over your way by this time. They tell me the Natoma Bay has had a call in for me for over 2 months. I guess they figured I'd come through here if I were to go back to duty. So now I'm to wait until it comes in or go on the first ship going out to where it is. I went to 2 different officers this afternoon to try to get those orders changed, but no luck. I guess they have too many men looking for their ships to let them stay put in one place for very long. P.S. Marion said he thought he'd be home around Christmas.
Marion's ship was involved with the invasion of southern France, then left northern Africa for the States. They arrived in Norfolk, Virginia, December 11th. While his LST was being refitted for the Pacific, Marion enjoyed a 30-day leave at home.
There was one trip I have to tell about was I went to New York. I came back from Europe, and the ship was in Boston, but they moved down to New York, and I came home on a 48-hour pass. And then I was going to go back on the New York Central. They was going to go into the New York Central Station, and I had to go to Cincinnati or Dayton to catch it. And that morning when I left, it was around 4 below zero, and the train was full. And I got on the train between 2 cars, and I stood there, and as a conductor come along, and I had tickets. And he took the tickets. He said, "Well, you're going to Columbus, or going to New York." I said, "Yeah." He said, he counted the seats, and you go up there and you stand right by that seat. He said, "Those people are going to Columbus." He said, you'll have a seat when you get to Columbus. And I'll never forget that.
Boston, Massachusetts. Hello, everyone. Yes, it's only me again. We have the ship in much better shape. Sure was a lot of work. Don't know just when we'll sail from here. I'll do my very best to get home again before we leave the States for the West Coast. Sure is cold up here. I'm not griping. I'll take this weather rather than the overseas duty. I'll see you if I can.
In Germany, the thing that lost the war for them was each man didn't have a head on his shoulders to take over the lieutenant's job if something happened to the lieutenant. But in the Americans, if the general was killed, the sergeant would take over. If he was senior to the corporal or private. And he knew enough with his own mind and thought and ways that he could have brought the thing to a close or led his troops the way they went. But the Germans couldn't do that. They lost their command. They didn't know what to do. They couldn't figure anything out for themselves. The Japanese, they had it figured they had us outnumbered 5-1 in a lot of these places. The number of people with the biggest army was going to win. But that wasn't the way that was either. There was soldiers that was way down in rank that stood on line and shot hundreds of Japanese from one gun to the next, that he took it on his own to do that, not the Germans. I think the Germans, what they wanted most of all was to be captured and sent to America. I know we had several prisoners on that they were tickled that they was captured. And what they had to look forward to. But England couldn't keep them, sent them to the States.
At anchor. Dear Mom, Dad, and all. Haven't much I can tell you tonight, but finally have a chance to send mail. Yep. They gave me notice this morning to pack and check out. Leaving on a ship that's going out to the 3rd Fleet. The Natoma Bay is with that fleet, and I will join it out there. Did you have a good Christmas and New Year? Did Marion get home for Christmas? About all I can say for myself is I'm all right. The days since I last wrote have been rough and tough with more to come. As ever, Dale. P.S. Always tear my envelopes wide open to read what may be there.
I know one time she'd wrote a letter to Dale, and she says, I know you can't tell me where you're at or what you're doing. She said, but we always wonder about you. Well, the next letter she got from Dale, after he got that letter, he, in his letter, he said, when you get my next letter, he said, make sure you read everything that's written. He said, even open it and look down inside the envelope. Now, they censored always mail, but why they didn't censor that out, I don't know, because there wasn't nothing in there that said anything.
January and February 1945. Polish troops fighting alongside Soviet units capture Warsaw. German armies are in full retreat along the 500-mile eastern front. Russian troops find fewer than 3,000 survivors when they liberate Auschwitz extermination camp. At the Yalta Conference, Churchill, Roosevelt, and Stalin meet once again to discuss the world's post-war future. U.S. forces cross the Rhine into Germany by seizing intact the Ludendorff Bridge at Remagen. U.S. Navy bombards Iwo Jima and raids Tokyo and Yokohama, Japan, with over 1,000 carrier planes.
Anchored. I'm still much in the dark about everything back in that part of the world. Haven't had any mail since before Christmas. Hoping everything is okay. I know you have mail out here for me someplace, but I just haven't been able to catch up with it yet. I've heard that you've been having quite a hard winter back that way. It's been just the other way for me. Have a deep tan. Everything is okay with me, just wondering how the other 2 boys are doing. I'll just have to wait more until I do catch up with that ship of mine. Well, if Russia keeps going, it'll look like it took them to do it. Sure hope they do keep up and then do the dealings with Germany. I'm sure they will square Germany away better than some of those soft-hearted Americans we've got in the swivel chairs.
But then when we got the letter after that, clear down in the bottom he'd print like Philip. So you know he was in the Philippines. Or Pearl. He'd just write one word down, that's all he'd write. Clear down the bottom, just print it. And just the letters. And they never ever caught on to that. But then if they'd have censored out what he wrote to him in the letter before, they would have stopped that. But because you wasn't allowed to tell anybody where he was at. But he'd write that down here so we knowed about where he was at the time. And that was one of the things that slipped through the censor. But lots of times you'd have a lot of censored out. If he was telling about what a plane done a certain day, or where they'd sunk something, or where they'd been into some island, and when they'd just block that all out. He wasn't allowed to have any of that in there. You can imagine people reading everybody's mail every time. When he wrote a letter, they censored it and went through it. And if it wasn't anything that amounted to anything, it was fine. But the one thing that they never caught on or never done was when he'd write that one little word down, turn down the bottom of the envelope. He just printed in there.
Before, most envelopes were just ripped open down the side, but now they are carefully slit open. Inside this envelope, at the very bottom, in small print, is written the word Phil. Dale's transport ship was heading towards the Natoma Bay, which is currently stationed off the coast of the Zambales province in the Philippines.
Hi everyone. Back in Memphis once again. We had one original engine on the plane when we landed at Kelly Field, Texas. That one was ready to blow at any time. It was causing the ship to vibrate so much the pilot could hardly read part of his instruments. It came in on its wheels, and that's what counts. So Marion got home for a while. I'm sorry I couldn't see him. There are nothing but fellows here that have come back from overseas, so now I'm planning on some time over there myself. Quite a few fellows have been leaving here by train to Miami, Florida. From there, they will probably go over by plane as passengers. Think I'd rather crew my way over. Then you know what's going on. I don't know where I'll go or even any guesses. Time will tell. We went into China this last trip, traveled a little more than 30,000 miles, brought back a B-29 named Patches. Patches surely lived up to its name. A bunch of flying junk. If anyone should ask you what color the water is in the Nile River of Egypt, just have them ask the crew on Patches and the 3 captains that were riding as passengers with us. We were fully loaded with gas, engrossing 126,000 pounds, and lost 2 engines on takeoff. Trying to get some altitude and follow a winding river in a B-29 makes a guy's hair stand on end. We had to follow the river because the trees along the banks were higher than the airplane. The engineers finally got one of the engines going again, so we had 3. Then we could only get up about 100 feet above the ground and made a big wide circle back to the field.
We still can't get above 100 feet.
Which way are we gonna go?
Let's make a big circle, big wide circle back to the field.
All right, here we go.
Drop a line and tell me about that first day of hunting. And how many they missed because the dog got in the way. It's an old story. Anyway, until next time, keep an eye open. Melvin.
Melvin is being transferred to an airlift mission called Flying the Hump. The Hump was the name given to the eastern end of the Himalayan mountains, over which military transport aircraft were flown from India to China to resupply the Chinese war effort of Chiang Kai-shek and the units of the U.S. Army Air Forces based in China.
Cincinnati, Ohio. Dear Dale, I hope this isn't too much of a shock, hearing from me. I received the Christmas card, but I mislaid it. I'm not sure I even have your correct address. I wrote to Gene and asked him for it, and this is what he sent me. I didn't even know you were back on the Natoma Bay. Bob wrote me that you were home for 38 days in November. I packed my things and moved myself down here to Cincy to live with my girlfriend and her mother. Yes, I remember very well you're telling me never to leave Dayton. I went through school with this girl, and her husband is overseas also. Gene joined the Navy. Mother and I went to see him in Washington over Christmas. I really miss him. He's in the best branch of the service, I know, but he's changed a lot already. I guess my brother and I are both growing up. It will soon be 2 years overseas for Bob, and he thinks he will still have about 9 months to go. I don't dare let myself think about it. Am I still rated among your friends? Betty Jane.
Betty Jane had to obtain permission from the government to change jobs since NCR was involved in the war effort. They arranged for her transfer as an office clerk to a manufacturing plant in Cincinnati. Luckily, it happened to be a couple of blocks from where she was living.
USS Natoma Bay anchored. finally caught up with my home so I can get your mail. I'm still all right, get pretty tired sometimes, trying to make every minute count. I'm back with a good bunch of fellows again and don't seem to mind it as much as I did before. Let me know when you find out where Melvin is going to be. So Gene got married. When did this all happen? I got a letter from Therm, too. He sent me $10 and wanted me to send his wife some roses for her birthday in March, thinking I was still at the hospital. Hoping things continue to be all right back that way. As ever, Dale.
Dale never mentioned this in his letter, but his Jeep carrier was assigned to the task of evacuating dead and wounded men from Iwo Jima to Pearl Harbor. The trip back to a friendly base was among the most memorable journeys he had during the war. After the war, he commented that,
"You've never smelled something bad until you've smelled bodies that have been dead for 8 to 10 days. You're hardened after that."
Gene had married Dale C. Dersham, Sammy, on January 25, 1945 in Richmond, Indiana. While in Richmond on their honeymoon, he received his papers to report to the draft board. Sammy left for the Army 13 days after they were married. He went to Little Rock, Arkansas for basic training.
It didn't take them long to make up their mind to take Sammy, did it? How's Nick doing? Are they still sweating it out? If the corn is all up before you hear from me again, think nothing of it. Just take care of yourselves and everything.
Arrived at the entrance of the Panama Canal. Entered the canal at 0800 and arrived at the other end at 1500. Played softball game while in Panama with the officers. Ship's control won 17-9. I pitched. The war news has been sounding pretty good the past few days. Maybe it will end one of these days. Guess we have been saying that for the past few years. But the picture does look a lot different now. I only hope Nick doesn't have to go to the Army. Tell Jeanette that I'll be looking for her to keep me posted on where he is. Well, I'll bring this to a close and get started on something else. Don't work too hard, and be sure to write. Marion.
Well, we made most of our own activity for fun. We play baseball, and we just throw down any old wood piece that we can have and to kind of step it off and have a diamond. And we made all our stuff. We didn't have bought an equipment. We did have bats, but most of that, you maybe got one or two. You didn't have multiple number of bats or balls, and you usually played with a ball till it was ragged or it had fallen apart. And then
Assam, India. I haven't received any mail yet. I have one more day of ground school before I start flying. Got over here at a bad time. It will soon be the months for monsoons. One of the fellows I had been in class with was hit last night with lightning. It just blinded them a little, and that was all. I sent Marion and Dale my address. I gotta write to Gene yet. Where is Sammy now? Still at camp in Arkansas? I'm well and eating. I guess that's all that counts just now. Right, and give me the dope on things back there.
Dear Dale, I have received so many different kinds of news today. I don't know whether to accent the positive or eliminate the negative. All joking aside, I'm really glad to hear from you and to know that you are safe, healthy, and in fairly good spirits. I knew you were down there, just as you knew I was in Chicago when you were passing through. You must have had a good time on your leave last November. I am so glad, because as you say, you've been having a hot time since you went back to sea. Every time I hear anyone mention Iwo Jima, I feel sick. You sound as though you might be coming home again before long. Is Cincy too far out of your way to stop and say hello to an old friend? I'm anxious to hear your post-war plans, plus your previous experiences in the South Pacific, on the Homefront, and also about the coon hunting. That has always been a hopeless ambition of mine, you know. I guess I'll never make it. First thing I know, I'll be too old. To stay up all night, of course. Good luck to you in the Natoma Bay. I can imagine how things must be down there. God bless you. Your friend, Betty Jane.
Oh, there's a king.
U.S. Naval Training Center, Sampson, New York. Dear folks, we are all set now for our serious training, so from now on, I'll have very little time to write. Jeanette will probably keep you pretty well informed as to my activities. Tell Sammy I sure wish he would have gotten the Navy. I'm sure he would have liked it better than the Army, not that I like it. It really wouldn't be so bad if it wasn't for being away from one's family. Well, it's chow time, so I'll sign off. Love, Nick.
Camp Robinson, Arkansas. Dear Mom, Dad, Vivian, Mac, Sam, Bobby, and Verlin. I've cleaned my rifle 8 times since yesterday morning, and I'll have to clean it after I come off guard at 5 p.m. tonight. I made reservations for Jean tonight at the guest house, and I think I've got a place in town lined up for her to stay. One of my buddy's wife is coming down, so Jean will have company after she gets here. Love, Sammy.
Haven't heard from Jeanette since I came back from leave, which seems to be a long time ago.
All right, ready?
Maybe she is waiting for me to write first. I'll fool her and write one of these days. I have the program of Moon River on the radio. It comes over WLW. That station certainly reaches out over the world. Guess I told you I got it 700 miles off the coast of South America. Surprising, isn't it?
What do you think?
It is getting late, and I'm getting sleepy. Is that reason enough to close? Good night. Don't worry about me, as I'll be careful.
Little Rock, Arkansas. Hi, y'all. I've just gotten settled in my room. The rent is $8 a week. Little Rock sure is a big town, and I ain't kidding. I won't go far from home, or I'd get lost. It's quite different from home. This is exactly the part of country you call the sticks. Sammy sure was glad to get his shoes that I took down for him. He said he gets tired of wearing those big clod breakers. I just wanted to let you know I'm okay. Bye for now, Jean.
Sam.
Hi, Sam.
This one's for you
Yep,
today.
by cracky, things are looking up this year.
From your brother Melvin.
Did you get that South 40 plowed yet? Balls of fire. Did you ever see any? I'll grant you, if you were over here and fly in some of these thunderstorms over the hump, you'd see plenty of them. It's called St. Elmo's fire. There are blue balls of fire, about the size of indoor balls. They run up and down on the nose of the airplane. Usually 2 of them will chase each other, back and forth on the wings. They stay about 3 feet apart and look kind of fuzzy-like. We fly plenty high over the ridge. We are on oxygen from about 30 minutes after takeoff until about 15 before we land in China. We'll drop another letter soon. Maybe by then something exciting will happen around here. Who am I kidding? As always, Melvin. P.S. Say, did you remember that today was Dad's birthday?
For the Army Air Force, creating an airlift after the Japanese blocked the Burma Road was a considerable challenge. No units were trained or equipped, and no airfields existed in India. Flying over the Himalayas was extremely dangerous and made more difficult by a lack of reliable charts, an absence of radio navigation aids, and scarce information about the weather.
And would he put his hat on in order to come out to?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
All
All right.
Break it off.
Oh, okay. Keep going.
Any shadows in there, Doug? Yeah, we might need the other one.
Yeah, I get shadows on the green screen.
You want it to come more like this?
Yeah, that looks good.
Can't have
And the only shadows I'm getting is really when he's moving around, so I'm not sure what that's going to do.